أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأورثنا القوم الذين كانوا يستضعفون مشارق الأرض ومغاربها التي باركنا فيها وتمت كلمة ربك الحسنى على بني إسرائيل بما صبروا ودمرنا ما كان يصنع فرعون وقومه وما كانوا يعرشون صدق الله مولانا العظيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after mentioning that we took revenge from Fir'aun and his people and we made them drown into the ocean because they made takdeeb of our ayat and they were ghafileen. After that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that we made those people warith, inheritors. Those people, we made them inheritors. And who are those people? Very same people who were suppressed into the community, who were taken as very weak into the community. We made them waris. We made them inheritors of the earth, of its eastern part and western parts. We made them inheritors of the earth on its east and west. And which east and west? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Allati barakna fiha. That land, we made them in charge. We made them inheritors. That land in which we had poured our barakat. The land of barakat, and its charge was given to those who were taken as very weak before. Now we gave them charge of this land of barakat. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ الْحُسْنَى عَلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلِ. Banu Israel, they were made inheritors of that blessed land after Fir'aun was drowned. And that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the beautiful promise of your Rabb became completed unto Banu Israel. As we had gone through one of the ayat, Allah said, Asa rabbukum an yuhlika aduwakum wa yastakhlifakum fil ard. Into the previous ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned, Musa alayhi salatu wasalam had said to his people that keep hoping, wait for the time. Who knows that Allah will destroy your enemy and Allah will make you inheritors of the earth. We had gone through that ayat. For that, it is being mentioned into the Suratul Qasas, وَنَمُنُّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. There too Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that people who were very, very weak, you remember how suppressed Banu Israel was by Fir'aun. So their history was that zulm on them. They were taken as very weak. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, people who were taken very weak, we will make ihsan unto them. وَنَمُنُّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. We will make them in charge of the earth. وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً. We will make them leaders. وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. And we will make them inheritors of the belongings which was left by Fir'aun and his people. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمُةُ رَبِّكَ الْحُسْنَى عَلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ بِمَا صَبَرُوا. Beautiful promise of your Rabb became completed unto Banu Israel. Why? بِمَا صَبَرُوا. Because they made sabr. They made sabr. وَدَمَّرْنَا مَا كَانَ يَصْنَعُ فِرْعَوْنُ وَقَوْمُهُ وَمَا كَانُوا يَعْرِشُونَ. And we destroyed all that which was made by Fir'aun and people of Fir'aun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we destroyed them. وَمَا كَانُوا يَعْرِشُونَ. And not only, they used to make big buildings. They used to have their gardens onto the roof of buildings. You know, sometimes you see some of the homes that they have grapes onto their roofs. So that's how they used to make plants grow onto that roof. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning that we destroyed whatever Fir'aun used to make and people of Fir'aun used to make, and whatever gardens they used to have onto their roof, we destroyed all of them. Ulama, while commenting, making tafsir of this ayat, they said that any building, any construction they had made, and from that construction Fir'aun used to claim for his godhood, they were destroyed. They all were destroyed. And remaining one, the in charge was given it to Banu Israel. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in this one ayat which we have done today, that after Fir'aun was destroyed and he was made to drown, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, now inheritors of the earth, they became Banu Israel. And who Banu Israel till now was that they used to be taken very weak. People of Fir'aun, and Fir'aun used to suppress on them. They used to do zulam on them. So now their time of weakness is gone, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we made them waris of the mashariq al-ardi wa magharibaha. We made them waris and inheritors of the earth to its eastern side and to its western side. And which earth? Allati barakna fiha. That earth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, which we have made full of barakat. And you know, commentators, they make mention, even if you go now there, it's a very, what you call fruitful land. Very beautiful land. So physical barakat also there, and you go there, it is the land of Anbiya. If you remember, thousands of messengers came into the Banu Israel. So they all are buried there. Where Anbiya are resting, that land has internal barakat also and physical barakat also. That land has internal and physical, both types of barakat. So that barakatful land, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we gave charge of that land to Banu Israel. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to fulfill His promise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did fulfill His promise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completed His promise. Promise was made to them that have sabr. Time will come that we will pay you for your sabr. So when time came, Allah paid them for their sabr by making them in charge of the whole land. And land of barakat because of that sabr. And that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completed His promise unto Banu Israel because of their sabr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed Fir'aun. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed whatever was made by Fir'aun and by the people of Fir'aun. And they were the symbols of kufr and shirk. Symbols of pride and arrogance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them all. Not only that, onto the roofs they have made their own gardens. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, that also was destroyed. Everything was destroyed. So, you know, sabr is being paid for to Banu Israel by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Promise was made, promise is being fulfilled by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And history always repeats. History always repeats. How Fir'aun used to do zulam, now people who connect themselves to Na'udhu Billah, to the family of Israel, they have come out with Fir'auni attitudes. And people who are reality-wise connected to the teaching of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and Anbiya of Ismail alayhi salatu wassalam, and teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they are very, very weak now in our time. We are experiencing from 100 years. They are very, very weak. But the zulm will not go on forever. The way those weak people of Banu Israel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them reward of their sabr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give reward of the sabr of our time people also. Time will come that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them reward. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will pay them by high premium, inshallah. That is what they are, full of hope of. They never abandon hope. They had never abandoned hope. They keep hoping. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is beautiful ayat. This is beautiful ayat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connect us to Quran and give us correct understanding of Quran and Sunnah. After Fir'aun was punished, then Banu Israel, they were rewarded. And they were rewarded because of their sabr. And Fir'aun was punished because of his attitudes, because of his pride, because of his arrogance. And people of sabr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always has this promise that sabr will not go in vain. They will be paid for. The way it was paid for to Banu Israel, it will be always paid for. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from pride and arrogance, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without any test and trial, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a freedom of Masjidul Aqsa, freedom of Palestine, freedom of Al-Ghazza. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them for their sabr. They are doing sabr more than 100 years now. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ya awwal al-awwaleen, Ya akhir al-akhirin, Ya rahim al-masakin, Ya dhal quwwati al-mateen, Ya dhal manni fala yumannu alayk, Ya dhal tawul, Ya dhal jalali wal ikram. La ilaha illa ant, Zahra al-lalaji'in, wa jar al-mustajirin, wa ma'man al-khaifin, Ya ma'man al-khaifin, Ya ma'man al-khaifin. إن كنت كتبتنا عندك في الكتاب أشقياء فامحو عنا اسم الشقاء فامحو عنا اسم الشقاء فامحو عنا اسم الشقاء وإن كنت كتبتنا عندك في الكتاب مقطرا علينا أرزاقنا فامحو تقطير رزقنا وحرمان رزقنا واكتبنا وأثبتنا عندك سعداء ووفقنا الخير فإنك تقول في كتابك يمحو الله ما يشاء ويثبت وعنده الكتاب. اللهم إنا نسألك فعل الخيرات وترك المنكرات وحب المساكين وأن تغفر لنا وترحمنا فإذا أردت بقوم فتنة فتوفنا غير مفتونين غير خزايا ولا ندامة ولا مفتونين. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا توفنا مسلما والحقنا بالصالحين. ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين. اللهم أحسن عاقبتنا في الأمور كلها وأجرنا من خزي الدنيا وعذاب القبر وعذاب الآخرة. اللهم حرر المسجد الأقصى والمسلمين المغلومين في فلسطين وفي غزة العزة في غزة القرآن في غزة الجوع والعطش. اللهم بدل أحوالهم وعطشهم وجوعهم بالإنعامات الوافرة الظاهرة والباطنة. اللهم كن لهم ولا تكن عليهم. اللهم حررهم من المظالم. اللهم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا وحبيبنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك.